The week had been almost too quiet. No sudden breakdowns. No harsh words. Just soft mornings, prenatal vitamins, awkward but genuine touches, and long silences that no longer felt threatening. Jungkook had even started laughing again, not all the time, but enough for Taehyung to notice. Enough to make his chest ache with a dangerous kind of hope. But hope is fragile. And ghosts never stay buried for long. It was a rainy Thursday when Taehyung was called to the lobby. He didn't expect the man waiting for him. Dressed immaculately in a navy coat, umbrella folded under one arm, was Park Ji-suk, the man who had once been Taehyung's business mentor, and the same man who had engineered the scandal that broke Jungkook's reputation 2 years ago. Ji-suk smiled like a man who had never sinned. Taehyung, long time no see. Taehyung's eyes darkened. You're not welcome here. I just want to talk. He tilted his head. And maybe warn you. You've been getting soft lately. Leave. Ji-suk didn't. I heard about the kid. Heard he's pregnant. Yours? I assumed Taehyung's jaw clenched. Be careful, Ji-suk said, voice low. You fall too hard, too fast. And people like him. He nodded toward the elevator Jungkook had taken earlier. They always take advantage. A silence so cold followed, it couldn't have frozen bone. Taehyung stepped forward, closer than polite. You're right about one thing, he said quietly. I did fall hard. Ji-suk raised an eyebrow. And I'd do it again. Without another word, Taehyung turned and walked away. Upstairs, Jungkook was sitting in the break room, waiting. But when the elevator doors opened and he saw the man following Taehyung out, everything inside him went still. Park Ji-suk, the man who had smiled at him during every business dinner, and later leaked a private video of him to the media, shattering his career. Jungkook rose to his feet, hands shaking. He hadn't seen that face in 2 years. Not since the worst night of his life. Taehyung saw the shift in him instantly. Jungkook, go back inside. But Jungkook didn't. He stepped forward. You came back, he said quietly to Ji-suk. You shouldn't have, Ji-suk smirked, not even hiding the cruel twist of his mouth. You really think you matter that much? I matter enough for you to ruin? Ji-suk's expression faltered. Taehyung moved to stand between them, protective, furious. You touch him again, and I swear. But Jungkook gently touched Taehyung's arm. Let me say it, Taehyung stilled. Jungkook stepped forward, eyes shining, not with tears, but with fire. I survived you, Jungkook said. I lost everything. My name, my job, my home. You made sure of that, Ji-suk scoffed. You played victim. I was one, his voice cracked just slightly. But I'm still standing. I'm still here. And this time, he touched his stomach. You won't get near what I'm protecting. Ji-suk's eyes flicked downward. You can't hurt me anymore, Jungkook whispered. Because I'm not alone. The silence was thick. Then Taehyung, quiet and low, added, get out. Before I forget I ever respected you. Ji-suk turned without another word and walked away. That night, at home, Jungkook sat curled on the couch, legs drawn up to his chest. Taehyung brought him tea and sat beside him, unsure. You were brave today, he said. Jungkook looked down. I wasn't brave when it happened. You didn't have to be. Silence. Then, softer, I'm sorry I didn't know then. That I wasn't there. Jungkook turned, voice trembling. Would you have believed me? Taehyung didn't lie. I don't know. But I would have wanted to, and Jungkook, for the first time in a long time, leaned into him. Not as a shield. Not out of fear. But because it finally felt safe. The air was different here. It smelled like salt and wind and something untouched by the noise of the city, like silence had finally found a place to breathe. Taehyung parked the car and turned off the engine. Outside, the modest coastal house stood quietly against the backdrop of crashing waves. It wasn't flashy, wasn't grand. But it was this, at least for a few days. Jungkook stared at it, then turned toward Taehyung, uncertain. Why did you bring me here? Taehyung rested his arms on the steering wheel, eyes forward. Because you haven't slept without flinching in weeks. Because the office isn't safe. Because you deserve peace. Jungkook looked away. And I need to remember what it's like to be with you without a war between us. That night, the ocean howled outside as rain tapped gently against the windows. Inside, the fireplace crackled and Jungkook sat curled on the couch, his knees tucked under a blanket. A mug of cocoa sat half-finished on the table. He watched the flames dance, quiet and still, until he heard soft footsteps behind him. Taehyung appeared, towel drying his damp hair. He had changed into an oversized knit sweater that Jungkook recognized. It was his, from years ago. Taehyung had kept it. Are you cold? Taehyung asked, voice low. Jungkook shook his head. No. Just thinking. Taehyung sat beside him, not too close. Not yet. A beat passed. Then another. And then Jungkook broke the silence, voice cracking just enough to show the weight it carried. Did you ever love me back then? Taehyung stilled. Or was it always just revenge? The silence that followed was brutal. It tore through the soft cocoon of peace the house had offered. Jungkook didn't look at him, only stared at the fire. I need to know, he whispered. Because I can't keep wondering. I can't raise this child not knowing who you really are to me. Taehyung swallowed hard. His voice, when it came, was raw. I hated you when I first saw you again. That day in the boardroom, all I saw was the person I blamed for my brother's death. For my own ruin. For everything. Jungkook's eyes burned. But then, you looked at me, Taehyung continued, and I remembered. He turned to Jungkook, voice shaking. I remembered the boy who used to fall asleep beside me after studying all night. The one who'd sneak me notes during meetings. Who loved me when I didn't know how to be loved. Taehyung's throat tightened. I tried to bury it. I tried to hurt you, use you, because that was easier than admitting I still. He stopped. Jungkook looked up, heart pounding. Still what? Taehyung's voice was barely a whisper. Still loved you. The words fell like stones into water, rippling through the quiet. Jungkook's eyes welled. You're just saying that. I'm not. Taehyung reached for him. I do love you, Jungkook. Not perfectly. Maybe not in the way you deserved back then. But I love you now. I love you more than I've ever let myself admit. Jungkook blinked, silent tears slipping down his cheeks. And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, he let himself fall forward, into Taehyung's chest, into his warmth, into the arms he had once feared and now longed for. Taehyung held him like he would never let go. Outside, the storm faded into quiet. And inside, they finally began to heal. The morning light streamed in soft and golden, slipping through the thin curtains and pooling on the wooden floor like melted honey. Seagulls cried faintly in the distance. The storm had passed. Taehyung stirred first. His eyes opened to the sound of even breathing. Jungkook, curled next to him, wrapped in a bundle of warmth and trust that hadn't existed between them for so long. It felt fragile. It felt like forgiveness blooming quietly in the spaces between their wounds. Taehyung didn't move. He just watched Jungkook sleep, the way his lashes fluttered slightly with dreams, how his hand rested gently over the small but noticeable bump beneath the covers. His child. Their child. The ache in his chest swelled slowly. He reached out, barely brushing his fingertips along Jungkook's hand, where it lay over the bump. As if in response, a shift. A tiny flutter. Barely there, and yet unmistakable. Taehyung froze. And then, there it was again. A kick. A soft, delicate thump beneath his palm. A tiny foot pushing from the inside, as if to say I'm here. Taehyung's breath hitched. Oh my god, Jungkook's eyes opened, blurry with sleep. What is it? Taehyung didn't answer right away. His eyes were wide, full of wonder, as he gently pressed down again, and felt it once more. He looked at Jungkook, voice breaking. Was that the baby? Jungkook blinked, and then his face softened, lips trembling into the faintest smile. Yeah, he whispered. He kicks more in the mornings. Taehyung looked down at Jungkook's stomach again, as if trying to comprehend the miracle he had almost missed. He's real, Jungkook's throat bobbed. He always was. The moment stretched between them, long and thick with unspoken words. Taehyung leaned down, resting his forehead carefully against Jungkook's belly, his hand still over it. I'm sorry, he whispered, barely audible. For everything. For not being there. For hurting you. For taking so long to understand. Jungkook reached out, fingers threading through Taehyung's hair. I was scared, he admitted softly. Of telling you. Of being alone. Of not being enough. Taehyung looked up at him. You're more than enough. You always were. Jungkook's eyes shimmered. Then stay. This time, stay for real. I'm not going anywhere, Taehyung said, and he meant it. He kissed Jungkook then, slow and soft, a promise pressed to lips that had forgotten how to trust. It wasn't about lust, or pain, or guilt anymore. It was about beginning again. And this time, with love.